would like to present to you my meeting with Cicero. And this little girl that you can spot on the picture, it's me, while my trip to Rome. And this is the old road of Via Appia. So when I was in Rome, I made with my colleagues a crowns, like the ancient crowns, of plants, and just sit on these antique stones to feel the antiquity. And I am at the senior year in Strumienie High School, and I do Polish, history, Latin, and English on the advanced level. But my Latin lessons are pretty unusual because I'm the only person there. There's only me and my teacher. But it's a great opportunity to just discuss what I just have learned. So I am pleased with that. It's okay with me. And I must just say that when I first was given the piece of work of Cicero, I was, well, a little bit stressed because, after all, Cicero. But I said to myself, okay, just be calm, look for a full stop at the end of the sentence, it will be okay. So, you know, the full stop was there, but at the end of the text. So, I have really big trouble with translating it, with get his thoughts, his stories right and properly translated in Polish. And so after that, he appeared to me as a lifeless genius, as a monument, as someone who is just unreachable for me. But then my Latin tutor gave me a letter of Petrarch to Cicero. And I started to read it and say, whoa, why? Why he's so angry with me? And as you know, the Cicero was in a mental breakdown at this time. Well, not at this time when Petrarch wrote to him, but at the time when Sulpicius wrote, and many of his friends wrote after his daughter's death. And I started to see a pattern, because this grief, this sorrow after a child's death, it's something that we have in our Polish literature. And here we have Jan Kochanowski. Jan Kochanowski was the first Polish poet during the time of Renaissance who wrote in a Polish language, because mostly Latin was a language that was reigning through Europe. And he started with epigrams, songs. He declared himself a Stoic, and his stoical attitude, it is visible in his works, until his beloved child was dead, because he lost his 4-year-old daughter, Urszulka, and he wrote 19 laments to honor his daughter. And through these laments, we can see at different stages of grief when father is losing some kind of betrayal, his stoical attitude, just to a daughter. And here we have a quote from a letter to Cicero, who is practically meaning, why do you care that your daughter is dead? It's normal. And in Lament 8, we can see this one little soul took away so much from me. So it's a clear conversation and dialogue with the works of Cicero. And actually, it was a big discovery for me, because I was taught first about Kochanowski in junior high school, and I have no idea who Cicero was. No idea. I just, well, I knew that he was giving good speeches, but that's it. And I started to doing on my Polish lesson Kochanowski's laments and epigrams, and the teacher just said to me, learn it by heart. And I was like, but why? What is the point of it? Why do I have to know it? And in high school, I finally understand what the Polish literature was all about. So I think back then in junior high school, I was just too immature to understand it. But in the senior year of high school, with the Latin background, not only Cicero's character, Cicero's life, but also the language itself, it actually gave a lot to me. But not only literature during Polish Renaissance is inspired by Cicero, it's also politics. My colleague from Nicolas Ray High School mentioned it. And by politics, it's worth mentioning two characters, Andrzej Modrzewski and Wawrzyniec Gośnicki. And these two personages lived in Poland while, as my colleague said, big time of change. Because the last dynastical king of Poland left no successor. So it was difficult, really difficult. And when I was doing this topic and my history lesson, I was like, whoa, we will have a war there. I'm sure we will, because it's so hard to just exit this conflict without any inner conflict. And thanks to these two men who wrote the Optimo Senatore and the Republica Emendada, actually we were able to save Poland from the war. Because Wawrzyniec Gośnicki wrote the Republica Emendada, inspired. Oh, I'm sorry, Fridge Modrzewski, my mistake. He wrote the Republica Emendada, referring to Cicero's De Officiis and the Republica. So in this work, in this treatise, he is describing how the relationship between Senate and Parliament and King should look like. So how these three systems are going to work together. And then we have Wawrzyniec Gośnicki and his work, the Optimo Senatore, in which he described what the perfect statesman or senator should look like. And one of the American editors and translators who translate, I think, the Optimo Senatore to the Consular, he wrote, as we can see here, Poland was the oldest imitation of the Greek and Roman institutions in which the monarchical power and the popular liberty have all along been happily united. So that words show us that Poland during the 16th century was really close to that Asian heritage because of the man that we can see here. Because he actually inspired these two men to write these treaties. And Wawrzyniec Gośnicki in his work is referring to two characters from the Dream of Scipio, so Dux and Moderator. So as we read it, Gośnicki is writing that the senator should be not only a courageous leader, but also a responsible educator. And when I read it, I have an impression that it's quite difficult to do, if not impossible, because combining these two roles, these two social roles, and doing both of them properly, it's quite hard, it's tricky. But there was one man in Polish history who fulfilled these two characters, and it was Jan Zamoyski. Jan Zamoyski, when he was studying in Padua, he was 2 years younger than me. I am 18 years old. And when he was my age, he decided to build a city. Well, I have different kind of problems than how to build a city by myself. But that was his plan, that was his big plan. And I will show you this plan of Zamość. It's called Zamość from Zamoyski. And when we have a closer look to this plan, we can actually see that it's based on a human body that we can find in the previous treaties. Because here we have head, it's palace of Zamoyski. Here we have a spine, Grodzka Street. The Great Market is the heart of the city. The little markets, water market and the salt market are hands. 2 forts, here and here are legs. And here we have church and academy. And they're symbolized might and the soul of the man. That if the man is meant to be well developed in his adulthood, he must have strong spirit and swift and well-educated mind. In this academy, Zamoyski wrote his own curriculum referring to Cicero's work. So the students after that academy know, I imagine every possible treaty of Cicero that was discovered in the 16th century. Because Zamoyski himself was not only senator, but also he was leading an army. he was the counselor of the king. So he actually is Dux and Moderator from the from Cicero's Dream of Scipio. And now I mention trip to Rome. I'm the first part of my presentation, and I would like to say about it because we can, following how the Cicero's, how the people in the Renaissance were were inspired by Cicero, but it's still happening. It's still happening now, and that was trip to Rome was all about. This is my hand, and I am touching the antique stones of the Basilica Julia. I'm sorry, not Basilica Julia, Basilica Emilia, my mistake. And then we have, legs of my colleagues standing on the temple of Venice and Roma. So before we went to Rome, we have a series of classes devoting only to this city, to its architecture, to its history. We also read the piece of Cicero's work. And after composing a really, really big notebook, we went to Rome. We were given a map. We were given a list of places that we have to visit. We were good boots. We were having a good shoes, and without Google Maps. And we just, you have a map. Just led to this place, and we were like, what? But fortunately, Mr. Strycharczyk was there to help us, and she, when we were a little bit lost, it rarely happened, but one time it did. We were able to find the proper track, and we were discovering Rome in this very special way, because we can see how these times were all combining in one place, like ancient times, medieval times, Renaissance, Baroque. It's all there, all in one place. So it was really a unique opportunity for me to go to Rome, to just see this man's heritage in real life. And as a closure to my presentation, I have a little surprise, because when I was in Forum Romanum, I performed the quote from Cicero's book, Nid Rostra, because unfortunately Rostra itself was closed, so I couldn't just break in there. But I wanted to, but Mr. Strycharczyk stopped me. And I just stand on the antique stones and perform a quote from De Officis in Latin. I'm sorry, the Republica, my mistake. In Latin and in Polish. So enjoy. And now in Polish.
Jest zatem Rzeczpospolita rzeszą ludu, a lud jest nie tylko zgromadzeniem ludzi zebranych w jakiś sposób, lecz także zgromadzeniem większości zjednoczonej wspólnym prawem i wspólną korzyścią.
Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.